Today, we're talking with photographer and filmmaker Mike Markee. Mike is a former teacher and has lived in Salem for over 30 years.
That's how we do it. That's it. When you get into the serious documentary now. It looks good. I like it now. Really? You like that one? Okay, this is good. There's a 4x5.
All of Mike's prints are made from scratch in his basement darkroom.
The problem with calla lilies that you find is it wasn't until I went to college that I took a photography class where I started printing black and white, and I really started saying, "Hey, this is pretty neat," you know.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have more control over the final image if you're able to print it black and white as opposed to color?
There are certain times color's fine. I mean, you know, when you have a subject that seems to be color oriented, you know, it's a great thing, you know, I think, to get the colors and work with it. But there's so much more manipulation and so much more creativity, I think, that goes into black and white.
Yeah. How did you first get involved with large format?
My first adventure with large format was back in the probably early 80s, and I had shot 35 for years, and then I started shooting medium format. I shot a Pentax 6x7 for several years, and then I thought, well, the automatic step, and you know, and listening to some people around me and getting interested in people like Edward Weston and Ansel Adams, is shooting large format.
What are your favorite subjects to shoot, and what sort of images are you really drawn to?
Every photographer, when you first get into serious photography, you're influenced by other photographers, you know, and it depends on who you like, you know, and that sort of thing. Probably also you're influenced by your environment. Mm-hmm. Being in Oregon, you know, I love shooting trees, for example. I think trees are a wonderful subject. I love people too. I love portraits. It's funny, when you get off on a subject very often, or I do at least. For example, I went over to Sheridan, where I grew up, and my grandfather went to their original home there, and for years I'd go back and shoot it. But one time I went back and I shot my grandfather's woodshed, which was behind their home on Railroad Street there, you know. So I did a series of shots and that sort of thing of it, and then wrote some poetry up at the same time to go with it. I was just experimenting with it. And about a month later, the thing burned down.
Wow. And
so I was so glad that I had done that, you know, worked with that subject, you know. And speaking of that, I went over, for example, to Sheridan, and Sheridan seems to be a place that I've written a novel about around Sheridan, so I've gone back quite a lot, you know, to visit, to as sort of a touchstone of memory and a catalyst. So one time I went over the old grade school, Faulkner Grade School burned down, so I took a 4x5 camera over. I was real busy teaching then, but about 2 days after the fire, and it was still smoldering and that sort of thing, and I got a really nice image, a series of images from the schools. Well, so last year, I heard that they were tearing down the other grade school that I went to, Chapman Grade School on the hill, and that was open, and I went there when I was in the 3rd grade. So I went in first at a sale. They were trying to sell objects from the school, and you know, I didn't find anything that was really reminiscent or keepable or a keepsake from the school. So I finally went through all of the rooms, the actual classrooms, and I found 3 erasers that I brought home. But I didn't take a camera into the building with me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so about a week later, I decided, well, I'm going to go back and reshoot this and take a 4x5, a big camera, and shoot inside some of these schoolrooms. Mm-hmm. So I called up my brother, who called up to somebody, said, "You can't go." I said, what do you mean? I was there a week ago in these rooms. He said, they've found out that there's asbestos in all of these rooms. And they put a fence around it, and you can't go in there now.
Yeah.
So no. So instead, and I knew they were going to tear the thing down soon. So I took a 4x5 over with me, and I went to the front and then to the back, and where all the playground equipment was, and I shot a series of black and white images that I liked fairly well and the thing. But the last weekend, I heard they burned the school down, but I didn't. I was going to take a video camera and a still camera, and I said no. I got some good stuff a year ago, so. Periodically, different things attract me in terms of subject matter. Mm-hmm. I love the Southwest. I love Chaco Canyon, shooting down there. The Indian Ruins are just amazing, there. And of course, the thing is, you find out when you work with a lot of these photographers in these workshops, they sort of clone each other. And pretty soon you start looking at photographers, and everybody shoots the same thing over and over again. And so either it's postcard-like, or it's like every photo magazine in the country. They all have the same thing. And I'd rather not do that.
How about locally here in the valley? When you go out shooting, just for like a day trip, what are some of your favorite places that you like to go to?
Silver Falls always has attracted me. I mean, it attracts everyone. It's a beautiful place. I've got one shot in the snow of the North Falls that I love. But it's been a place I've gone back to for years. In fact, Jen and I were married at Silver Falls too, and in fact, we talk about having our ashes dumped over the South Falls there. But it's a beautiful place. It's one I keep returning to.
Although Mike is an accomplished photographer, he will admit that he is still learning.
Working with some really great photographers, working with Jay Dessart, I worked 3 years with him, and I've learned a lot. I don't want to be a clone of Jay Dessart, and I would never be, but you learn from the masters, you learn from these people.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'm working with different documentaries. With everyone you work with, you learn something. It's a constantly learning business, whether it's poetry from Lawson and Otta, or poetry and philosophy of life from William Stafford, or whoever it happens to be. When you're doing, you're learning constantly.